Oh, you want me to do it again? The meeting will come to order. Welcome to Matthews. What do I do?
Just press on it.
Got it. Welcome to Matthews Mint Hill Toastmasters, where we rock, flow, and grow. We have a very, very special guest today, and I want to make sure we don't overlook recognizing him. That is David Jones. He's on Zoom because he had a meeting he couldn't come to. We don't actually have an area director. He is our division director, but he's doing the work for this area evidently because it's so hard to find somebody. Tried to get Valencia to re-up again, and she said, no, no, no. No, I'm just teasing. No, they didn't. But it is a fun job if you ever get to that point. Welcome, David. He's going to be doing assessing our club in addition to general evaluator today, who's Valencia. He's going to be doing an assessment of the club and turn it in. So everybody try to make a good impression, me included. And if anybody needs the facilities, it's in the room. They're right outside the door. And I think it's time I could turn this over to, not turn it over. I'm not turning anything over. I'm relinquishing control. You'd think I'd know that after 17 years. To Tim Akers. It's Tim's first time as Toastmaster. So we're going to help him out and coach him along. So come on up, Tim.
All right, thank you so much. Oh, and thank you for adjusting that. Well, good afternoon. It is kind of a cool day, but it is toasty in here. You see what I did? All right. So about introductions. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. Years ago, I was under a sermon that was given, and the topic was risky love. And one of the points I took away from that one was that whenever you open yourself up in any kind of loving way, there's a risk associated with it. So bear with me as I go for the risks as I introduce everyone. Now, my idea here was people form, whether it's proper to say so or not, opinions about people that they meet within seconds.
Oh, yeah.
And they also categorize people. This is part of the way the human mind works. It's just what we do. And so I thought I would share, at new member really, and I have to share some of the thoughts compressed into one word of people that I have met here since I've been here. Now, within any description of a person, one word will never do. But just one word that came to my mind. There's so many others that I'm sure apply to everyone. So here we go. The president, Dylan Hales, peacemaker. Our vice president of education is Jeffrey Elam, who is kind. Our vice president of public relations, Valencia Timms, strikes me as a leader.
Ooh, yeah, give them a hand. She's here.
Our vice president of membership, Scott Davis, is an encourager.
Yeah,
And now I formed this list before I came in this room. And I'll just point out to you this. When I sat down, he took the time to turn around to me and ask me how I was doing.
He's a sweetie. Sweet would go.
DeAndre Persons, I find him trustworthy. Now I've known him for a while, and that helped me form that word. Jonathan Weeks, faithful. And Vicki Johns.
Does this need to be censored?
Is there a mute button? Vicki Johns, wise.
Wise. That's a wide hair, yeah.
Well, you know, I can relate to these things.
I'm the glasses.
Huh?
I'm the glasses.
Oh, and the glasses. Studious. That's good.
So now let me run the list of the roles. The speakers today are going to be Jonathan and Latricia. She is here with us.
Latricia, like Patricia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Valencia is going to be our general evaluator. Our speech evaluators are Vicki Johns and Scott Davis. The table topics will be Lynn. Times will be kept by Arnett, and I am your faithful Toastmaster. The theme for today's meeting is Thanksgiving, of course. And I thought we've maybe been a little negligent in this area. So I thought I would volunteer a word for the day is faith. I know that falls to the grammarian, but allow me to present that word of the day, faith, since it goes with Thanksgiving, and since I've already used it 3 or 4 times. All right, with that, let us turn it over to, we're not supposed to say turn it over?
No, but before you do that, how about let some of the roles, like Arnett, the key roles, explain what they're going to do?
All
Is
right,
that okay?
that sounds like an amazing thing to do. Should we take them each one by one? Or
And they come up to the lectern and tell us what they're going to be doing.
okay, general evaluator, Valencia.
Thank you, and kudos and encouragement to you for taking on the role as Toastmaster today, Tim. I'm really excited about it already. Thank you so much for the value you're bringing to it. As general evaluator, I will do an evaluation of our whole meeting. Now, it'll be a little limited today because we have in our presence our division director, who will also be able to give us a little bit of feedback as a visitor and as a director, but I will give feedback on how our meeting flowed today. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for that. Table topics, Lynn.
I will be laying some surprise questions on you to see if you can get your immediate answer on.
Timer is Arnett.
Greetings, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. As timer, I would time the table topics, speeches and evaluations. Table topic speeches should be 2 minutes. At 1 minute, I'll raise the green card. At 1 minute, 30 seconds, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 2 minutes, I'll raise the red card. Icebreaker speeches should be 4 to 6 minutes in length. At 4 minutes, I'll raise the green card. At 5 minutes, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 6 minutes, I'll raise the red card. And all the individual evaluation be between 2 to 3 minutes. At 2 minutes, I'll raise the green card. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll raise the yellow card. And at 3 minutes, I'll raise the red card.
Thank you so much. So are we ready for the first speech?
No. I have something else.
What do we have to do?
I would like for you to recognize a visitor that just came on a few minutes ago.
All right.
Is it Alex Shell? Yes,
Alex Shell, welcome. Glad to have you.
first time visitor.
First time. Nice. All right, well, let us get on with our first speech. This is, okay. This is going to be the riveting topic of passwords and multi-factor authentication, which I knew that since I do it every day at least 5 times. And this is to keep your passwords safe and stuff secure. In this talk, Jonathan will deliver an effective, well-defined speech on a narrow topic. In this case, he will present a scenario where a password caused issues and how to resolve it. This is also a repeat of a previous speech for any new members who might not know about password managers and multi-factor authentication, or MFA. It is IT and security, 2 of the most boring topics rolled into one, so be prepared for boring squared. This speech will also attempt to use a PowerPoint presentation, which we already had, which is something we haven't tried in this setup, so we'll see how that goes. Let's hope this long introduction has provided him with enough time to get to the presentation and that it all works well. So without much further ado, Jonathan.
Thank you so much. Password manager and multi-factor authentication. Yeah, you like that? I just noticed it on the screen too. I try. Get my hat up. Meet my mother-in-law, Violet. That is my actual mother-in-law, and that is my actual little child. I'll give you a few moments to amaze in his cuteness.
Looks just like his mama.
Thank you so much. At least she has she uses one password for every website. We will go into that. Kathy, 1982. Kathy being her daughter's name, 1982 being the year she was born. Yes, I married a young woman. She never lets me forget that, by the way. She uses a lot of websites, Violet does. As you can tell, CNN, Fox News, Wells Fargo, Harris Teeter, Tinder. I don't want to go into the other ones. She just, yeah, she's single. I don't judge. One of these sites was hacked. By the way, hackers do sit on their computer in the dark with hoodies and masks on. That's how they do it. No, they're fat and ugly like me.
One of my hacker moves.
But the problem is, one of the sites was hacked, so they had a password. She uses the same password for every website. They now have her password for banking, social media, and everything else. Fortunately, she knows me. And her friends alerted her that one of her accounts was acting strangely. So I jumped in my car, drove over, and leapt into action, as only IT can, when supplied with enough coffee. So, first thing I did, install a password manager. Examples of password managers, the one built into your browser. 1Pass and LastPass. Interesting side note, Ryan Reynolds, who plays Deadpool, is an investor in 1Pass. So if you go with 1Pass, you have the added advantage that Deadpool would visit the hackers and do what Deadpool does. It's a positive, isn't it? But what does a password manager do? Wow, it manages your passwords. I know that's a surprise to you guys. It creates long, unique, complex passwords for every single site. I've stared at this password for months now. I can't even remember the 5 first characters of it. Doesn't matter. Password managers store it for you. And wow, gets good, doesn't it? And then they automatically fill it in when needed. Where do I sign up? Oh, wait, there's more. It also works on all your devices. So you get the same password on all your devices for your websites. You don't have to remember them, and everything works. Yeah, that's good, isn't it? But you still need one password for the password manager itself that you have to remember. So I sat down with Violet and we came up with this password. Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, clock. It's a very simple way to remember passwords. To think of 3 or 4 words that are not on social media but are easy to remember. Like here you could do clock, Last Supper, something else. Table. Decent password, but it's long. Long is good for security. We no longer advocate that passwords have to be complex because people never remembered. And to be honest, hackers know you use a $sign instead of S. They know that, so they just account for it. But I looked on her social media. She's never been to Myrtle Beach or Wilmington, according to her social media. She says she does every once a month. And I asked for another word and she said clock. I think she said clock. I'm going with clock. I put the L there. So she now has a nice, safe, long password that she can remember. I really don't want to know what she does there, but again, she's single. It's up to her. But multi-factor authentication steps into the picture because if a hacker gets into a website and steals a password, they still have access to that site with your password. Multi-factor authentication is an additional layer. And it consists of three things: something you know, like a PIN or a password, something you have, like a phone, a key, a card, or something you are, like a fingerprint, Face ID, iris scan, something like that, biometrics. So the whole point of this is to combine at least two of them together. And as an example, we have this lock. This is my front door, actually. You have to know the PIN number and have the key. If you don't have both, you can't get in. Doesn't matter if you can pick a lock, you still can't get in because you don't know the PIN. And vice versa. That is the strength of multi-factor authentication. And that's why two combined makes it a lot more secure. But the point isn't to stop people breaking in, because they can still break in. Multi-factor is not a bullet, is not a silver bullet for stopping any hack. But it does relate to this. How fast do you need to escape from a bear?
Just fast enough.
Faster than your friend. Well done. The whole idea is that hackers look at your account and go, oh, they have MFA enabled. I'm going with this other guy who doesn't. That's the whole point of it. It adds an additional problem to them hacking in. And we try and make it as simple as possible. And it's supported on a lot of websites that she uses: Amazon, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Tinder, Facebook. You'll be surprised on the sites that accept it. So please look for it on every site you go to. Now Violet is safe online.
A dangerous situation.
This is me and my son hunting along the River Cherwell in Oxford. This happy in the awareness that my mother-in-law is safe online. I'm blissfully ignorant of whatever she does in Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. Now, I do have a quick disclaimer. All persons, facts, names, birthdays, passwords, websites, etc. are made up. I'm not so foolish as to do on a public platform my wife's birthday, or her name, or even my mother-in-law's name. But the story holds true. So please, if you haven't already, look at password managers, look at MFA, enable them, and make yourself so much more secure. Thank you so much. Over to you, Toastmaster Tim. Let me change the screen share back. There you go.
Very well done, on a topic that was not easy. I enjoyed the picture of your work. And I wished I had brought a picture of my multi-factor authentication from my house. I have a labyrinth of fences to keep livestock and other things in and out. And there's a fence that goes completely around the yard. And my wife calls it the shepherd mode because we have 3 large dogs. So would that count as multi?
No.
Oh. I thought you would say that. Okay, for our next speaker, we are going to have Latricia Barr. She is going to talk about Let's Talk. The topic is on having better communication that cultivates the idea of openness, transparency, and honesty. She has a master's degree in nonprofit management. She ran her own health and fitness club in Buffalo, New York, worked in public school education for over 10 years. Interestingly, she has completed her 40 before 40 goals, which include things like getting a lifeguard certification, joining Toastmasters, traveling, community service, including working with seniors living in care facilities. She's a member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, and she's a mother of 2 teenage boys. She's been married for 19 years. Let's welcome Latricia.
Excuse me, I had a bit of a coughing fit. Do I need to adjust this? Because I'm short.
Thank you.
All right. Let's talk. How was your day today?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy lunch? Did your meeting go well? What did you have for lunch? Those are the type of questions we normally ask our children, our spouses, whomever we live with when they come home from a days of work. We want to know what happened in their day. But oftentimes those type of questions can lead to one answer responses. It was fine. It was okay. Yes, no. So what you want to do, or what I've tried to do, is come up with more interactive questions or open-ended questions that would give me a better perspective on how someone's day went. My oldest son loves to talk about politics, religion, social injustices, all type of everyday occurrences that can happen. So what did I do? I came up with a question box. And in that question box, we would sit down at dinner time normally and pick from the box. Throughout the week, we put in different topics, different questions. And I thought, after we've done it for a while, this would be so great if we had a game form to do it in. So I got a little creative and I sat down and I came up with a board game and I called it Social Impact, because I wanted the way we talk and communicate and socialize with our families to have an impact. I wanted to open and honest discussions that would create more conversation and give a better perspective on what was actually going on in our individual daily lives. So I came up with 4 different categories within the game. And within each category, there are 100 questions. So you have a total of 400 questions throughout the game that you probably will never finish unless you've played for a long time. Now, the first category is, what would you do? What would you do are scenario-based questions that happen in our everyday life, situations that you come across that you're not prepared for, and it's a what would you do situation. Now, when you have the time to think about what you should do is normally different than what you would actually do in those scenarios. So when you're answering what would you do questions, you really need to think about what you would do or what you have done in those situations. And I'll give an example. The stress of bullying and teasing at school is too much and you want to commit suicide. What would you do? Now you're going to sit and you're going to think about that. From an adult perspective, you may want to think back on when you were a teen or when you were in that situation and offer your perspective to your children that way. Or you can come from a right now perspective, because bullying does happen with adults. It happens in work, it happens in the workforce. So you can also come from that perspective. So that's what would you do? What would you do, not what you should do. First category. Then we have real talk. Real talk are questions where you're just going to answer off the flip. It's real talk. You don't have time to think about if it's morally right, if it's right or wrong. This is how I feel about this topic. This is how I feel about this. This is my answer. This is just real talk. And that question may look like, do you find it easy or difficult to make friends? Okay. Then you have personal truth. Personal truth questions are going to make you look introspectively within yourself and answer based on your personal truth. Now, my truth may be different than your truth, so everyone's going to be able to offer details and suggestions and opinions on how they feel about that question. And it may look like, are you happy with life right now? Explain. Now, me looking at my son, I say, sure, he's happy with life. He's a kid, he's living, he has no bills, etc. But for him, his personal truth, no, I'm dealing with A, B, C, or D. So his personal truth is different than my personal truth of what I think he should have. Okay. Then we have the fun card. The fun card is going to bring some relief. It's going to break up the monotony of some of the tough questions that can come throughout personal truth, real talk, and what would you do? Because the questions can get deeper. It's based on a point system, 5, 10, and 15. So a 15 question answer is definitely not going to look like a 5-point question answer. And because these questions can get a little emotional, you may want to look at getting outside help and resources because they do go over topics such as drug and alcohol abuse, sexual assault, and suicide and bullying prevention. So if you need outside resources to continue on with help in the discussion of these topics that are brought about during this game, please seek those out. The object is to get to your 250 points, whatever the point system is, but you also want to be able to have an open dialogue with your family. So don't rush to get to the points. Sit in the conversation. If one conversation about bullying is going for a long length of time, stay there. Share your experiences with your children. Let your children share your experiences with them. The object is not to get to the points, but to have open and honest conversations, to be transparent. So the fun card is going to bring in that relief where you have some fun, you let your hair down. They may see you in a different light that they never see you, and vice versa. So a fun card would look like, turn your favorite music app on, and whatever song is playing first, dance to it. Is that going to take you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
Maybe, but that's the object of the game. This game, you're in your safe space. Let it be a judgment-free zone with your family, okay? This is the time when they let their hair down. Now, this probably will be your favorite card. It's not part of the category, but it's in there, and it's Plead the Fifth. Now, Plead the Fifth comes into play when you have a question that you're not comfortable answering for whatever reason. Maybe you're not ready to discuss your teenage drug days with your children, what have you. So you're gonna plead the fifth. Now, you only get a limited amount of Plead the Fifth cards, so use them sparingly and wisely, okay? Now, you do lose points for using it because the object of the game is to communicate open and honestly, but Plead the Fifth gives you that time to plead the fifth and not have to talk about that, okay? Now, I would like for you all to give me some feedback on these 4 categories and how you think that this game would benefit you and your family. Thank you.
Got my spectacles. Thank you for that. Good. I really appreciate the topics that you hit on. And if I were to have come up with a word for you after that one little speech, I would have said mentor. Very nicely done. Next, we are going to have our table topics master come up and share with us.
Hello, hello, and thank you. So our topic today is Thanksgiving. So my first question is going to be certainly scheduled around Thanksgiving. For Thanksgiving this year, are you going anywhere? Where are you going and who are you meeting? Valencia.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. This Thanksgiving, I'm not going anywhere but to my kitchen. And honestly, I'm not meeting anybody because the people who are going to be there already live here. So no one's coming over that won't already be here. But something that's interesting happened in reference to this Thanksgiving that's coming up. And I've heard of this thing before, but I was trying to put it out of my mind because it was just the weirdest mutant food that anybody could ever talk about. My son, who's 11, doesn't want turkey for Thanksgiving. He wants duck, and we eat duck somewhat regularly. And I mentioned this when I was, I think in a Toastmasters meeting or someplace I was, and I was at work and someone said, Well, you should have a turducken, some kind of concoction where you put a bird inside of a bird inside. I said, a who, a what? And I heard of this before, but what? Now, let me tell you something. I was reading Deuteronomy this morning, and I am so thankful that God made creatures separate. He didn't, even if he didn't make them eat each other. I don't want to eat a bird inside of a bird inside of a bird. Is this tasty to somebody? I'm confused. I know. So anyway, I apologize. I went on a little road, off-road for this because it just took me to this place. But yes, I am going to enjoy Thanksgiving. I'm not going to think about turduckens or anything like that. It will be mostly traditional with food and people that I enjoy. And what everybody else is doing around their table is their business. Don't talk to me about it. Thank you, Miss Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Valencia. Yes, turducken. I've heard of that as well. I've never tried it. I haven't heard the best of reviews on it. So I've kind of stayed away. But the really, really weird Thanksgiving food, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, lutefisk. It is fish made with lye. So, yeah. Next table topic. If someone could tell you the exact day, time that you're going to die and how it would happen, would you want them to tell you? Jonathan.
Ooh.
Date, time, and how? That would be really interesting. Just think of it. You actually now have an end date. You have a target. How do you do it? How religious are you? Do you take the view that God's going to forgive you as long as you reconcile with him at the end of the journey? Which means you got a nice time to do whatever you want. Or do you try and fill it with love and joy and happiness? So yeah, that would be an interesting one. I would love to know. I sometimes think I had already had an expiry date that I flew past. So yeah, having a nice time trying to figure out what I want to do with my life, because now I've got a time limit. I can pack everything I need into it. The excuse I have for no longer doing that is I don't have the time. No, I'm making the time because I know when I'm going to die. After that point, it's nothing. I can't do anything more on this earth because I'm dead. So if I want to go see a Grand Canyon, I would have to hurry up, wouldn't I? Or maybe it's going to be 50 years time and I can just chill out and enjoy life and be lazy, and procrastinate. That does give you things to think about.
Thank you, Jonathan. I wish I'd be able to give you that date time. Unfortunately, none of us have that luxury. Last question is, so we are going to be getting together with our families, whatever your family may be, large or small. When we were kids, we generally did get together with our families. At least our family got together every year. So did you have that one super weird relative that always did something that you're like, what are they doing? And if so, what was it? Arnett.
I know you think you're all power.
What's the question?
You know, it's okay. You have a super weird relative, and you're always kind of looked at and weird.
Do I have a super weird relative? I do, an uncle. I think everyone has that famous uncle. He is he grew up in New York, and he spent a lot of time doing weird stuff then, and he still does it now. Now he'll come to Thanksgiving and he'll just take all the food. And literally just pack it all away and take it with him. And not care what, if anyone else had anything to eat, right? So and he's done that a number of times, and you would think that he wouldn't be invited anymore. But he continues to come, and he does the same thing, and he's been told numerous times. But he's a very cookie. In addition to that, he likes to hunt. I don't know where he picked up that habit when he grew up in New York. And he hasn't done any hunting. But when he comes down to North Carolina, he goes with my dad to go hunt. And I tell you one thing, I wouldn't want to go hunting with that guy. It would be in my mind a disaster, but so far my dad's still alive.
Good table topics, all right. For our first,
Excuse me,
Yes,
excuse me. Do you want to ask for times for the speakers and explain the ballot and that we're gonna vote?
I do, that's exactly what I want to do.
I knew it was.
Before we get to the
PSP.
speeches, let's hear the times and also take a second to get your vote ready and turn that in so that we can calculate those at the end. To Vicky. Thank you.
Because you got the chat on your phone.
Oh, I see. Does that out.
All right, first speech on multi-factor, I use the same password too for everything. When I change that.
Yeah.
Jonathan's speech was 8 minutes and 1 second. Latricia, I always plead the fifth. His speech was 7 minutes and 26 seconds.
Wow.
On the table topics, Valencia, your speech was 2 minutes and 1 second. Jonathan, your speech was 1 minute and 33 seconds. And mine was 1 minute and 18 seconds, even though I was pretty good. Nope.
All right, thank you for that. Now for the speech evaluation of Jonathan, we will have Vicky John.
Woohoo, that's me.
Thank you, Lynn, for clapping.
You're welcome.
I was good.
What is wrong with you people? You're supposed to clap every time somebody does something. And actually, you're supposed to clap until they get to the lectern. So thank you, Lynn. Lynn, clap for me here. I know y'all did online, but I couldn't hear it. Jonathan, what do you think about his introduction? Oh my gosh, that for the ones on here that don't know me that well, introductions are one of my,
Pet peeves.
okay, that's good, pet peeves. I love long introductions, and he's been around for a couple of years. He's probably heard me say this time and time again. And he actually made it very valuable because he purposely did it that long so we would have time to set up his presentation. So that was a great thing for you to do. But also introductions, they set the stage for what you're going to be doing. It's not so much about who you are, unless you're giving a talk about something medical. You want to tell them you're a doctor, so you have credibility. You see what I'm saying? But with his, it just led us right into the speech, and it also piqued our imagination as to what he was going to talk about. So that was really good. Successful use of that PowerPoint. Oh my gosh, that was so good, Jonathan. And that's what he was trying out, because Jonathan is our main IT guru. He sets everything up, and we've got several IT people. Tim is an IT person too, but he's only been a member a couple of months, where Jonathan's been here a couple of years. So he kind of takes the lead, sets up all our equipment. When he's not here, oh my gosh, that's when Tim's going to have to help us. I love, yeah, exactly. I love the fact of the humor that he uses. Jonathan is very funny. The hacker sitting in the dark with the hoodie on, I really thought you were serious. I can just see him now. I really thought it was serious. But his whole presentation had those great pictures in there. Did you notice that? Because the one thing you don't want to do as a Toastmaster, put the card down. I'm not going to pay any attention. I don't ever stay in time, so that's okay. But anyway, gosh, I forgot where I was going. But
Presentation pictures.
yeah, with the pictures. The worst thing you can do in Toastmasters is do a presentation we call death by PowerPoint. That is when there's no pictures, everything's written, and you're reading it to us like we can't read. So don't ever do that. Your timer is not right, Arnett. Put that down. Arnett's a new member. This is his first time, so he doesn't know what he's doing. So
Yes.
I would ask you to slow down a little bit.
I don't know why.
I know you talk very fast. I don't know if it's because you're British or what, but we won't hold that against you.
I was nervous.
You were nervous? Oh, wow. You shouldn't be. And use more pauses, because when you pause, it gives us time to absorb. And you gave us a lot of information. So it gives us time to absorb what you're saying, because you taught us some really great things. MFA, you explained it very well. You got us excited about that. And I want to learn more about it, because I'm probably the world's worst at passwords. Mine are a little bit more difficult than Kathy 1982, okay? But you turned the boring squared into a memorable speech, and I do appreciate that. And as the end, as my conclusion, I know I'm out of time. That's okay, Arnett. Faithful Jonathan has been speaking regularly for the last, especially the last year. Last year, he earned his Triple Crown. Can you see the pen, everybody? Where's the camera? Oh, somewhere. So he's going to do it again this year. That means he earned 3 educational awards within a year, and he is on target to win a Triple Crown. So he wants to challenge everybody to join him. So good job, Jonathan. Thank you. Keep clapping. Come on, come on, come on. There you go.
Thank you, Vicki. The next speech evaluator will be Scott Davis for Latricia's.
Thank you, everybody. Wow, did Latricia not do an amazing job?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Second speech.
I was just getting ready to say, I don't know that I've ever heard you speak before. I must have been absent
Yeah.
when you did, but I was really blown away. And there were a number of things that really shocked me. One of them was how comfortable you looked. I mean, I think the whole time you were up here, I don't really remember you looking at a whole bunch of notes. In fact, sitting right beside you, knowing you're getting ready to do your speech, I'm thinking, she doesn't have any notes. That's really impressive. So I think that is definitely a high mark. I mean, that's fantastic. And how lucky are your sons and your family? When you think about the subject matter that she talked about, okay, in the world of devices, when we can sit in a room with people we do know, we don't know, family, how many times have we been somewhere at a restaurant and we're looking at a table and everybody's like this? Okay, so to have a mom who's so desirous to be engaged with your family, your family's very lucky that you want to engage them on that level. And I think that's as far as audience awareness, that's a challenge to all of us, you know, to really start thinking about talking, and not just like at the beginning, the questions with the pauses. That brings us back in. But saying, how was your day? You know, those things that we all hear, and it's the automated response. But to really start asking some deep questions, I think that is absolutely awesome. Also, you were enthusiastic about your topic. I mean, clearly the fact that you could talk for that long and not have notes, this is something you're very passionate about and is well thought out. And that was obvious to all of us. You consistently came back to the theme. It's not like you started off and, you know, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. and then you wandered around and then, didn't come back. Boom, you were consistent. We are all going to leave today having heard that challenge. It was repeated. So that was fantastic. And then I love the humor, the pleading the fifth. That's great to have that ace in the hole when you get that one question that you really don't want to talk about. I think that was great. As far as what you could work on. Okay. Now we've all said, which is true, you can't ever have a speech where you say, well, there really wasn't anything. But I really had to think about it. I mean, it was not easy for me. The one thing that I thought maybe you could do, and I know we're all confined by right here, but it is such an engaging speech. If you were to use maybe a little bit more body language and, to kind of step out, and you had great eye contact, but maybe to ask some of those questions and, use a little bit of gestures. But apart from that, I think you nailed it. Awesome job. Jonathan.
I'd like to say,
Okay.
I think we should use that as table topics one day.
Sure.
That little thing.
I think that's great.
Nice job, Scott. So let us talk about the winner. But before I do that, I did want to say something about the PowerPoint. I don't know if it was just me or if it was a special feature, but I like the fact that you had your, profile built into the PowerPoint presentation itself. Very nice. It was part of Zoom.
That's the bit I wasn't sure was.
Yeah, okay. Well, I hadn't seen that before. I've seen a million PowerPoints and I hadn't seen that one before. So that was really neat. And the other thing I was going to say about your presentation, Tricia, is I noticed before you started that you were struggling with, maybe a sore throat or something, and I was thinking to myself, bless her heart, she is really that's going to be a hard thing to overcome. And, I never would have noticed it when you were up here. It was,
That's the freak. I don't know where it came from.
so that's great.
That why I kept going out?
Yeah, I had a cough.
Oh, okay.
Cough something. But I had water and I was fine after that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. So the table topics winner is Jonathan.
Thank you. I am not a winner. There are no losers, but I have this.
All right, let's bring on our general evaluator, Valencia Timms, and see what she has to give us.
Oh, yeah.
Did we have a grammarian? Just this question. Okay, thank you. I've had a little faith that we could have our meeting with all of our roles filled, but I understand. Moving into our general evaluation. Once again, you did it, Matthews. You rocked, flowed, and grew in this meeting. And that's part of why we introduced that way. It was good to have Vicky demonstrate that because some of us mess it up when we get in front of the room. Some of us want to rock and roll and other things. But that was great. It was great to start on time with our motto. Toastmaster Tim, first time, round of applause for Toastmaster Tim. Great job, Tim. Something that you did that I love personally is you started off with a dad joke. I don't know if everybody got it, but it was toasty in the room and I felt that. Thank you for sharing that. Also, when you were introducing the officers, you did this thing where you gave a one word for each one's personality. The one thing that I will say though about that is we heard what the officer roles were until you got to Scott. You had that risky love thing with him and it just made you forget to tell us what each person was after him, the role, like our treasurer and our immediate past president, but it's okay, it's okay.
Thank you.
The theme of our meeting today was Thanksgiving, and we shared a lot of that Thanksgiving with our word of the day, faith. I didn't hear anyone use that word until I started speaking, but I hope that, and I have faith that you'll think about faith through the rest of your week. When our timer came up, he told us the times for each speaker role today. What I would have loved is if you had those cards when you came up and showed them in the camera. I did see them at the end, at the back of the room, but for the people on Zoom, especially for guests, it's important for them to know what we're doing when we're holding up those cards and what that represents. So every opportunity to share. But great job being a timer. I think this was your first time, right?
It was.
As a timer, so give a round of applause for that. Also, let me say for our table topics, Lynn, you've done table topics before?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. And you're natural. We love it. And your questions were great and thought-provoking. Really appreciated that. So I won't do an evaluation on the speeches today, but I do want to give kudos for our speakers because both of them spoke about things that they do in real life. Talking about security is something you do in IT, is something you do in real life, Jonathan. And for you, Latricia, in your work as well, even though you tied it into how you use that in family, I did really appreciate that. Now for our evaluators, I'll give some feedback for you. Vicki, I love how you talk about the introduction every time you evaluate a speech. And the reason why is because you remind us to write our introduction. It's important that we're properly introduced. A lot of times we introduce first speaker and then the person comes up and we don't say anything about the person. So I think that's really important. But I want to caution you about talking about British folks. And I want to tell you that also I love how you talked about not only how Jonathan presented his speech using presentation software and not killing us by PowerPoint, but also how he presented his speech and what he included in it, how he added humor. You talked about the content as well as how he presented. So I did appreciate your evaluation, but you gotta stop picking on the timer, especially when they're new. I think there's rules against timer intimidation in Toastmasters. I'm gonna find the article for that and send it to you later. Scott, for your evaluation, I love your energy when you come up to the podium, just, you know, and I think we were all drawn in as soon as you started talking about Latricia's speech. So that was really good. You gave her kudos for not having notes, and you talked about something that we talk about in Toastmasters, having that call to action. You called it a challenge. You challenged us to use this in our families instead of being the phone, things like that. You gave her for her speech. And you did give her some insight with that, I think, as well as talking about using gestures. So hopefully Latricia will be able to take those notes. Now, one ding on, and I don't know who to ding on this. I don't know. I don't want to ding Tim because he's a new Toastmaster, but I kind of want to ding my evaluators a little bit for not talking about pathways, the speech level that, well, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, Scott, with Latricia's speech. You were finding out what speech this was for her, but knowing what pathway they're on, what speech level this is, what project it is. I think it's important for us to remind the room that all of us are on education pathways. What level are we? What are we working towards? And that's an education tool that we can use in our meetings as well. And with that, I will end my general evaluation for today, especially because I think we need to give some time to officers and our division director. Thank you.
Faithful, always faithful. That was a very good, no whitewashing. No whitewashing. There was lots of takeaways from that. Thank you so much for that. We don't have the president with us today. I should have asked this before I started, I suppose, but who will I turn this over to at the end of my remarks?
I heard a question.
Okay,
What's next week? I mean, Thanksgiving on Thursday, so our.
where do you mean? No.
At all, is
No,
it moved or
no,
anything?
no, no.
good
No,
question.
taking a break.
I had that question, but didn't think to ask it. So who will I turn this over after I finish my remarks?
Well, me, because I got something I want to say.
Okay, before I do that, let me give Alex an opportunity to speak and give his impression of our meeting. Alex. You're on mute, Alex. Still on mute.
You're not on mute, but if you check your microphone where the mute is, there's a little caret. Just make sure it's connected to your headset.
Okay,
That you, oh, there
There we
you
go.
are. Yeah.
okay. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone. This has been a pleasure. I was just talking to my brother over the week. Hold on, over Molly. I was talking with my brother over the weekend and he was saying he was in Toastmasters for about 8 or 9 years, and he told me to give it a try because we're new, my family and I, we're new down here in North Carolina, and we're looking to start some new things next year. So to be a better communicator, he said, hey, this would be a great thing for you because it's helped him so much. So I found this, unfortunately, about like 20 minutes from you all. So I think whenever the next meeting is, I think I could probably actually come in. And this was good. I was open-minded, didn't know what to expect. So this was actually welcoming just to see how calm and collective things went today. And just to see the points that you all do and how I guess everybody's still learning, but everybody seemed confident in what they were talking about. And that's where I want to be at. And it's good to meet everybody, and
Good to
thank
meet
you all for having me.
All right, thank you so much. With that, I'm gonna let Vicky give us some of her thoughts.
No, it's not a thought. I want to show you the ribbon. Can you see it? Yay, we just made it for the umpteenth millionth time. And we also got a letter from the president, international president, and the CEO of Toastmasters congratulating us on that ribbon. And we will have it on our banner next week. So I just wanted to share that. And yeah, so I think we're about out of time. I think we should close. David, did you need to say anything? He's our division director.
Okay. Just want to say great meeting and congratulations on being presidential. Just had 1 or 2 little things. Number one, obviously Ralph Smedley was the founder of Toastmaster, and he has certain Smedley rules, and you all did the cardinal sin, or the Smedley sin. You never leave the lectern unattended. So many times people would walk off the lectern and it was just empty. The Toastmaster, whoever's running the meeting, stands and waits until the other person comes to the lectern. Just a little bit, my curiosity is your setup. Now, obviously, I think you are speaking from a computer, but what is the camera that is looking at everybody else? Do you just have 1 computer with 2 cameras, or how's?
2 laptops.
No, one computer, 2 cameras.
Oh, yeah, we just got a computer screen with a webcam on it that shows the room.
Okay, that's
Yeah, and a
interesting.
laptop here, and then a microphone.
Is there a switcher or something like that? Or I don't understand how you would. Yeah, because
Well, let's close the meeting and
close it and we'll
you
chat
stay
after.
on, you stay
Okay.
on and talk to him and we'll clean up the room. So meeting
All right.
adjourned.
Yeah, I have 1 laptop.